Nancy, the nurse practitioner here from Caregiver Success, and we have a video today for you about dementia. And I'm going to talk with you, first of all, Judy Cornish. She is going to be our guest speaker today. Welcome, Judy.
Good morning. Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, so I met Judy somewhere along the way. And as you know from my YouTube channel, everybody, I keep bringing on these great people who have resources for us. And that's the name of the game, how to survive being a caregiver and how to get the tools out there that you need to do a good job. So let me tell you a little bit about Judy. She is an author. She's the founder of the Dementia and Alzheimer's Wellbeing Network called Dawn, which is DAWN, just as it sounds. She's the creator of the Dawn method of dementia care. She's a retired elder law attorney, which is cool. She has 2 books out. One of them is called The Dementia Handbook and Dementia with Dignity. She takes a person-centered dementia approach for care from theory to practice by identifying the skills not lost to dementia. And I just want to finish this little bio she gave me. Through Dawn, Cornish provides online training programs for families and professional caregivers, as well as a certification course for agencies and facilities. That really blew me away when I saw that, Judy. So we'll talk more about that. And her goal is to see dignified dementia care and aging in place become available for everyone. Love that. So welcome, Judy. I'm so glad you're here with me today. You know, I went to your website. I just want to say real quick that something that really stood out to me is I read this quote she had in there. We can live with dementia because not everything is lost. So tell us more about what you're doing with Dawn Method and what is Dawn Method, Judy?
You know, everything I've done with Dawn came out of me getting to know a neighbor when I moved to the small town of Moscow, Idaho. So my experience with dementia does not come from family. For most of us, we become a caregiver through a family member needing our help. Or, and so for me, it was I just volunteered. The neighbor is a little forgetful, but she was really cool. And I was just getting to know her. And her daughter came by and said, oh, Mom, she keeps losing the car. We're going to have to put her in a care facility. And I said, oh, don't do that. I'm not working. I'm just, trying to be retired. And really quickly, as soon as I started helping her, all of a sudden I was helping, the phone would ring and people would say, there'd be somebody saying, hey, my dad lives there in Moscow. He's forgetful. Can you check in on him? And without any planning at all of a sudden, I was absolutely fascinated and spending time with these wonderful people. And everybody's a little forgetful and a little confused, mostly living in their own homes alone. But everything I was seeing them do and experience was, to me, it just looked like, people who were losing skills. They were upset. They were afraid. They were frustrated. Because they'd been used to taking care of themselves their whole adult lives, and they were very capable people, but all of a sudden they couldn't do things they always could. And what I didn't see happening, and of course, remember, I'm an attorney, I'm not a nurse or a doctor or a social worker, or I'm not even a CNA. And, I don't have medical training, but I didn't see people becoming crazy. I didn't see people who exhibited signs of a disease. And what I saw was people who were having emotional reactions to losing skills. So I stuck with it, and I spent about 5 years. For about 5 years, I spent more of my time with people who were experiencing dementia than with people who weren't. And what I learned was we don't lose random skills to dementia, and we don't become crazy. Everything that happens is entirely understandable, and everybody will go through dementia in a very personal way, but there is still a pattern, and it is not a random pattern. But it doesn't make any sense at all if you're looking at it from the perspective of medicine, because it's not, people are not having uh, physiological reactions. They're having emotional reactions when
Yeah.
they lose cognitive skills.
It's interesting you say, as not being a medical person, I'm reading like this Unbreakable Brain book, and I'm reading about different pesticides and aluminum
Yeah,
and products in our food. And I do
yeah,
videos, and everything's leading to food too. So they're looking at the
yeah,
20-year-old and saying, maybe you can prevent some of this. So I am that
right.
medical person.
Yeah,
I am losing my
yeah.
keys, and I didn't punch out last night. Let me go back and do that after being in a clinic all day. And I'm like, how did I forget that? I knew I went in there to do that. It's like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
and I'm
But
like, darn, why am I forgetting that? And it gets me
right,
angry. Like,
yeah.
I
See, that's your reaction. So when we are used to being competent and good at things and just doing things without thinking about it, and we expect our brains to carry on like they always have.
hmm,
And when they don't, it's not that we have a disease reaction, we have an emotional reaction.
so tell
We
us
get
how.
upset. So
So go into the dawn methed for us so that we understand where we're heading with that. How do you teach the dawn method? Tell me more about that.
okay, well, that's like three questions.
I
Let me
know it is. It is.
um
Sorry, guide me.
but so what I figured out, and it took me a while, I'm for the penny to drop three times, but I eventually, the first thing I realized is all of these new friends of mine, these my neighbors, my clients, they were losing their rational thinking skills,
Mhm.
and they were not losing intuitive thinking skills. And the reason that one hit me first was because my undergraduate work was, I studied literature, language, art, music. That was my life until I ended up going to law school. And if you go to law school, your intuitive thinking skills, your judgment and all that doesn't matter at all.
I know.
All
True.
that matters in law school is rational thinking
Yes.
and memory. You need to have good memory skills and you need to have good rational thinking skills. And all you're going to do, and the only thing that qualifies for a grade, is memorize the law, identify the facts, then apply the facts and the law, and you get a result. That's it.
Mhm.
And so it was really hard for me
I
to
bet if
to
you're,
switch. I had to completely set aside all the skills I was used to
Mhm.
and then learn nothing but rational thinking and how to use it. And I wasn't very good at it.
Mhm.
And it was really frustrating. And then I started spending time with all my neighbors and they're experiencing dementia. And I kept thinking, the way they act, the way they're reacting, what's going on here, I have gone through that. When was it that I went through that? And I realized they were doing exactly the opposite. Here's a bunch of people that have always had rational thinking and intuitive thinking skills at their disposal. And all of a sudden, the rational thinking skills are just fading away.
Mhm.
And so that was the first thing I had to come to grips with was, okay, so what are our intuitive thinking skills? What are the rational thinking skills? And I had to learn the difference. And I went back and I started reading like Daniel Kahneman. Um, Eventually, I found Ian McGilchrist. And you read people neurologists and psychologists, you start reading about it. And yeah, if if I'm losing rational thinking skills, and so I'd read these books and then I'd start thinking about each of my different clients and look for patterns that held. And yeah, people don't, they become unable to see cause and effect. And so much of spending time with somebody who's experiencing dementia is just, we get so frustrated because, we say, well, but mom, uh, it's snowing outside. You have to put your coat on because when we go outside, it's going to be cold. So
Mhm.
just put your coat on. And mom's saying, no, I'm not going to put my coat on. And then if we think, oh, well, that's a personality change.
Yeah.
Here, this disease is making my mother into a different person. No, it's not. It's just that mom can't see cause and effect. She's standing inside, she's warm.
So what do people do
She,
with that? Tell me how
they,
you would get through that scenario without
oh,
yelling at them or frustrated or walk away or say,
right.
darn.
Well, the typical way we deal with it is we say, Mom, it's cold. Look out the window. See snow. You need a coat. And then mom gets madder and I get madder and everybody's upset. Companionship out the window. And now we're going to have a bad day because now, this is a close relationship
Yeah.
and it's not working. So instead, once I realized that, my clients, they just don't see cause and effect.
Hmm.
So then my response is, oh, okay, don't worry about it. But you know me, I'm always cold. So I'm going to wear my coat. Do you mind if I take yours? Okay, now I get a different response. Now she's like, oh, honey, go ahead. Yeah, sure. You can take my coat. And then we step outside and count at 3 seconds, right? The psychological perception of now is 3 seconds long. And about 3 seconds later, she goes, ah, I'm cold. Okay, now understanding that she doesn't have cause and effect, I'm not upset, I'm not frustrated. And I say, oh, well, good thing we got your coat. Let me help you put it on.
Hmm.
But rational thinking skills, how come? Um, if somebody gets a head injury and they suddenly lose eyesight, that happens. You can suddenly lose your eyesight. We don't, to that person, we don't say, oh, come on, mom. I'm going to turn your head in the right direction and then I'm going to point. There, you've always been able to see it before. Now just look, you'll see. We don't do that. We accept she has lost the skill of seeing, vision skills.
Hmm.
And yet, when we hear that somebody's experiencing dementia, we hear that they're losing executive functions. The neurologist will give us, they'll tell us, yeah, they might even say rational thinking. But think about what that means. That means I am losing or have lost, I will lose the ability to understand why. I'll lose the ability to comprehend explanation. I'll lose the ability to compare and contrast and analyze and use judgment.
Hmm.
And yet, what do? We look at them and we say, what? You don't understand? Let me explain that for you. Okay, I'll explain why. It's because A, B, C equals D. C, and then we get all upset because they really can't understand reasoning. So, so we are expecting people to do things or to use skills they don't have, and it doesn't work. Everybody gets frustrated and upset. So,
So I know you had this wonderful website and there's so much tools here, and I think we need to tell everyone a little bit more about that. I know that first of all, she does have two books. We mentioned Dementia with Dignity. That was your first book that you wrote, Judy? Or
I wrote Dementia with Dignity, and then a friend of mine told me that I'd written the wrong book first. And so, good friend,
or the
good guy.
Dementia Handbook? Yeah, it's the
And
second one.
so
Okay.
then I wrote the Dementia Handbook and published it first. But the Dementia Handbook, when I wrote that book, I just wanted to explain the philosophy, what it is that I found to be true from spending time with my clients.
Mhm.
And I wrote it just as I would have written a memoranda for the courts when I worked in the courts. No
So where
proof.
can people get these books anyway? Can they get them on your website? Do they get them on Amazon? Just in
Oh,
case
they're on
people.
Amazon, but yeah,
Yeah.
actually, if you put, you can just Google Judy Cornish or Judy Dementia or yeah, and it comes right up. Uh,
Okay, just so in case people are looking for more tools, people sometimes like to read and not
yeah,
watch, or some people
yeah,
like to do both.
yeah.
Do you want to talk about the website for a minute, just to tell people the content, what's on there? Because I will tell you, I went on there and I love this website. There is a roadmap for people who want to do it themselves. There's always those people who think, let me try this first.
Yeah.
There's online classes. Is that with other people together in a Zoom that you do online classes? Or,
Well, let me kind of, so
yeah,
for
sorry.
what I, yeah, that's okay. So what we've done with Dawn, um, I have services to, my goal, and let me say that dementia, dementia care is complicated. It's
Mhm.
complex. It's not simple. If it was simple, there wouldn't be over 10,000 books on dementia on Amazon.
Yeah.
It there is nothing simple about dementia care. The hardest thing you'll ever try to do in your life is be the companion of somebody who's losing cognitive skills. You
Yeah.
think parenting's hard? Oh, no, no, no. Parenting's much easier because children are gaining skills. But when you love somebody and you spend time with somebody who's losing skills, that is really hard. It will wear you out inevitably,
It's also kind of like the
inexorably.
slow goodbye, the slow goodbye kind of thing. I mean, I
Yeah.
took care of a lot of patients as a nurse practitioner, and I found that, honestly, I found that the people that had this most stressful, most detailed, difficult jobs, chemists, um, my husband's an aerospace engineer, and I'm
Mhm.
seeing him starting to get a little interestingly forgetful. They
Yeah.
seem to have so much clogged in that brain of theirs of detail and calculations that I found that they were sort of the, I don't know why, but I saw that they were the ones that were losing
I,
before
and
most time,
I've
you
watched it
know?
too, but then I see these other people who might have been like one woman comes to mind specifically where she had a really her husband was really autocratic, and so she was always, in the background. He never let her make a decision, and she had an older sister who was the same way. So in her growing up years, she was always kind of,
She's was the
in the
passive.
background.
Yeah.
But out of that passivity, I see, and to me, it's equal, whether it's the person who has overused rational thinking skills and memory skills that ends up losing them, like as if they've worn them out, or whether it's a person who never really got good at using them in the first place. They also seem so I can't see a pattern. In all these, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of families that I've taught or families that I've consulted with or
Can I ask you one
or
more thing about personality? Because people have their
yeah.
type A, their personalities. Do you find that the personalities can accentuate or get more, uh, you see it more as dementia progresses? The person who's passive becomes more introverted, the person who's
Nope.
aggressive becomes
Nope.
more aggressive? No, you don't
No.
see that.
Yeah, that's not what's going on. It's much more complicated than that.
Yeah, I'm
No,
sure.
no. So if you look at dementia from the perspective of disease or
Mhm.
medicine, if you use and actually I have a I spoke for the Federal University in Brazil on this topic of how you define the problem determines the way you can solve it. So if you look at dementia as if it were disease, then you've got disease, right? So now if disease is defined by symptoms, so now we need to look for symptoms
Mm,
of dementia.
great.
Well, okay, but we don't have any physical changes.
Yeah.
It's not like cancer where you're going to see physical manifestation of the disease. And so you have to look at the way the person behaves. Okay, so now what we do in America is we say dementia is a disease, and there are dementia related behaviors, which are the symptoms of dementia. Now, look at those behaviors. What do we got? Well, let's see. We've got restlessness, sundowning, combative behavior, exit seeking, wandering. Now, think about those five in particular.
Mhm.
Are those dementia related behaviors? Or are those behaviors that are seen in all walks of life from people of all ages? Whenever people are under stress or are uncomfortable,
Mm,
you'll see those same behaviors. So now you really must question the logic in calling those the symptoms of dementia. They actually are the symptoms of a human being under stress.
mm,
Now, let's go back and think about this model. Is it wise then to consider dementia to be disease? Actually, if you want to solve the problem of loving somebody and trying to live with somebody or provide care for somebody when they're experiencing dementia, you need to think about the changes in their functioning. So now we move away from disease to an experiential model. We're going to look at the experience of dementia. And now we start thinking about being person centered. Instead of being disease focused, we're going to say, no, no, this person is experiencing something. How can we support them? And technically, we're talking about providing habilitative care. And habilitative care is how we raise a child. And actually, people who are experiencing dementia are losing skills.
Mm,
Children are gaining skills. And so the commonality between the child and the elder is that it's a human being who is in a period of life when skills and abilities are changing.
mhm.
And whenever human beings are in a period of life where skills are changing, it's stressful.
Yeah. I think the
So
other thing, go ahead, I'll let you finish, but I'm thinking about the caregiver, but go ahead. Yes.
yeah, so parents are stressed, right? Because
Yeah.
they're spending time with children who are stressed because they're going through changes. And
Mhm,
the same is true of the caregiver of somebody who's losing skills to dementia. But
mhm,
it's so much harder if your companion's losing skills. So what we're thinking about now is, how do I turn away from this model of disease and begin looking at this person, this human being, as a human being? I want to preserve dignity and autonomy. I want to be kind. I want to be empathetic.
mm,
And so now we start thinking about how the experience changes a person. So you turn to skills. What skills am I keeping? And if you do that, you can actually be person centered, because now you understand what I can do
mhm,
instead of being just focused on what I cannot do. You do need to understand what I cannot do, because
mhm,
you just like my example of the person who's lost vision. If you don't stop demanding that I use skills I no longer have, you're going to embarrass me constantly, and you're going to frustrate me constantly, and we are not going to enjoy our time together. On the other hand, if you do understand what I am able to do, and you don't ask me to do what I can't do, if you take care of that for me,
mhm.
do the rational thinking, use your memory on my behalf, and understand what I am doing, then we're going to be able to have fun together again. Then we will go back to that previous relationship where we are going to enjoy each other. But
So you're
it
almost changing the caregiver. Well, you are.
absolutely.
Uh, and you're teaching the caregiver how to change their reaction and behaviors to kind of bounce off the reactions and behaviors they'll get from the person as they're changing. You almost have to keep changing your game plan as people
No,
progress,
you know what
no?
it is? No, it's just awareness. A
Awareness.
lot of the problems we have in the United States today are due to not understanding our own cognitive skills.
Mm,
We have no idea that we have two sets of thinking skills. America is like, yeah, rational thinking skills, good. Intuitive thinking skills, what? Those aren't no, 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 no. That's like that woo-woo stuff, that's emotions. Wrong. The intuitive thinking skills are our primary set of thinking skills. It includes um, gathering information via our senses, raw data. There's no filter, it all comes in. Anything you see, hear, taste, smell, or touch. That information is gathered by your intuitive thinking skills.
mhm,
That's being inductive, gathering, unfiltered. All of it comes in. That's critical. That's the seat of our humanity. And along with that gathering of unfiltered information, we feel all our feelings. So that stays. The person who's experiencing dementia continues to feel all the full range of human emotions. What do they lose? Well, I continue to feel these feelings. I feel love. I feel joy. I feel sadness. I feel grief. I feel fear. I feel anger. What I lose is the ability to express that in a rational manner, or to remember why, right? That goes away, but I still have the emotions. So I might be feeling really sad because of what happened 5 minutes ago. And you say to me, Judy, why are you so sad? Now, I can't tell you, maybe because I'm losing my verbal skills. I can't explain it to you because I've lost the ability to use reasoning, rational thinking skills. I might even forget because I'm losing my memory skills. I might not even be able to remember what it was that occurred that made me sad. But I still 100% am completely feeling my emotions.
mm,
So if that's making my companions uncomfortable, you could say, Well, she's exhibiting dementia-related behaviors because she's, doing whatever, exit seeking. And now you could give me a psychotropic drug. You could mute my ability to appear sad, but you'd not take away the sadness. And I think that's really cruel. But on
Mm.
the other hand, if we see, this is why it's so important to understand what I can do and what I can't do.
That's
The other
so,
thing
it's so
I'm doing is I am entirely reading the nonverbal communications from my
mm,
companions, because
mm,
that's part of intuitive thinking. And once
exactly.
again, I don't know why your face looks worried. I just know you're worried. I
Mhm,
pick it up instantly and I will begin to react to it, but I'm going to take it personally because I can't understand why there'd be any reason why you would feel worried. So now you're going to get me behaving in a certain manner due to your expression of worry.
mhm,
But if we want to have a good time together, you need to know that I'm reading those emotions from your expression, your intonation, your gesture, your body language.
mm.
So,
So what's
um,
kind of, this is really interesting because me as a clinician is trying to be, wow, I was definitely in a different space. I mean, although I had a lot of patients I took care of, and I would actually sit down with them and talk about World War II, or say, I like what you're wearing. You're wearing a polka dot shirt and checkered pants. Good job today. And they're laughing. But what I'm
yeah,
trying to say is that it was like, I'm in your space,
yeah,
you're not in mine. This belongs to you.
yeah.
And we would really have wonderful conversations about, and things would come out of their minds and their mouths about some stuff that were like treasures taken care of in a way. I'm not saying not about you, but more or less, if you can just focus on their space, maybe you'll have a better day. Is that some of the takeaways we're
Well,
getting? Or not
I
really?
kind of think it's like experiencing physical pain.
Mm,
If you have to live with pain, and many people live with a great deal of pain, it's
yeah.
inescapable. And I've lived with that. And the one thing you eventually learn is that if I cannot escape the pain,
Mhm.
the way to experience less pain is to stop resisting.
Mm,
If you resist, it's worse. If you and it's so true, there the only way out is through. And to me that's the same as don't resist, it's accept. And so when we emotionally and cognitively accept, we stop resisting whatever it is we cannot avoid, and we embrace it, and we face it and accept it, then it gets better. That's step number one. Step number two is awareness. If you become aware that your companion is having reactions, if you understand why they are reacting the way they are,
mhm,
you'll stop expecting something else,
mhm,
and then it's easier for you. So the Dawn method is becoming aware of
mhm,
our human cognitive skills and which ones we lose to dementia and which ones we keep. But you can't learn about what your companion is losing to dementia without learning more about yourself.
no,
And it is
definitely,
incredibly freeing and help to
definitely.
understand your own cognitive skills better. One of the greatest gifts I experienced in spending time with people who are experiencing dementia, the first and the greatest gift I received was coming to understand how human beings manage mood. Okay, I always thought that something happens. Somebody says something to me, something occurs, there's a situation, and then I experience an emotional reaction. So my moods and therefore myself were the result of situation. That's always how I'd thought about it. Something bad happens, that's it. I'm going to have bad feelings for some period of time, right? You can't escape it. It
Mhm,
wasn't my fault. I didn't do it. I'm the victim here. And now I'm stuck with sadness or grief or anger, frustration, or embarrassment.
mhm,
But actually, that's not how it is. And I have rational thinking skills and I have memory skills. And Every time something happens, I get to choose. I get to choose to use my skills to deal with it,
Mhm.
to change it. And I get to choose how I feel. And the way I came to understand the power I have over my own emotions and my own moods was watching my companions, my friends who were experiencing dementia and therefore had no rational thinking skills and no memory skills.
Mhm.
Now they are 100% victims of circumstance. Whatever mood we bring into their presence, they have no ability to recall why we might be feeling that way.
Mhm.
My caregiver just walked into the room and she looked sad. Now, without memory skills, I can't say to myself, she looks sad because her dog died. I can't tell myself that. I just see her looking sad.
Mhm.
Now I feel sad. What happened? Did I do something? Depends on my personality whether I'll start immediately feeling guilty or whether I'll just empathically embrace your sadness or whether maybe I'm going to be angry at her. What I do now? What are you so sad about? What I do?
Mm.
We can't if we don't have rational thinking skills or memory skills, we can't help but take it personally.
Exactly.
If you walk into my presence looking worried and I have rational thinking skills, right away I start thinking, what's she worried about? Let's see, could it be this? Could it be this? Could it be this? But if I have dementia, I can't do that. So to understand how we humans that we have these skills, we can manage mood. And then when dementia takes them away, we can't. That's incredibly freeing because all of a sudden I can practice having a peaceful smile. And I just put on my peaceful smile whenever I'm going to walk into the presence of somebody who's experiencing dementia. And we're going to have a good time.
Hey, this sounds like
People
it would work with just people you work with.
does. It does. There's all kinds of research on that.
Oh my
And
goodness. It's yeah, I can definitely see that being and we were talking about that before. Like
yeah, yeah,
I just want to say real quick, I'm vaccinating in the state of Connecticut and I'm plopped
yeah,
in with a team of people I don't even know, boots on the
yeah,
ground to
yeah,
vaccinate. And you're getting all these personalities. You're getting these 20-year-olds with
yeah,
a whole different view of life. You're getting the
yeah,
older nurse who's retired, and then you're
yeah.
getting the mom with 3 kids and 3 jobs, and we're
You're
all trying to
right.
get a job done. I'll tell you what, it's a dynamic because then you're trying to get through that one day, and then the next day you're plopped with another 3 people with all their own sets of
All
problems.
their
And
own problems.
and it's
Yeah,
like I said, we need a brief debriefing for the leads of these
yeah,
teams because
yeah.
we don't know how to connect by ourselves, let alone it's a whole psychological pool. It's a
Yeah,
very interesting
it is.
dynamic.
Daniel Kahneman has in that book of his Thinking Fast and Slow, he recites all these studies that, if you activate the smile muscles, it actually produces endorphins in the brain and it makes you feel better. So yeah, put on a happy face. It
Yeah,
actually
turn
works.
that frown upside down.
That actually works. But
I yeah.
the other thing is we get what, and it's so sad, that most of us have when our default expression for most of us is a frown. It's a frown of concentration. It's a frown of worry. We learn it through life. I mean, just look at faces on the street. Most people's default expression when they're thinking of nothing or they're
Yeah.
lost in thought is a
Yeah.
frown. Walk into the presence of a person who's experiencing dementia wearing that habitual frown.
Yeah.
You're going to get negative emotions from them, and you're not going to have any fun, and it's going to be very stressful for both of you. But if you just practice to put a peaceful smile on your face, number one, you're going to feel better. And there's all kinds of tests and studies that have proven that it gives us, it produces dopamine. And you're going to get better reactions from everybody, whether they are experiencing dementia or not. It's one
Like,
of the,
I just want to say one more thing because I'm very spiritual is I find that if I start my day with prayer or some feeling of foundation support,
yeah,
I almost hand it over to
yeah,
God. For me, I
yeah,
hand it
yeah,
over and I just say, can you just help me get through this day to be a good influence for these people?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, but we are on dementia. We don't want to lose focus here, and we're going to run out of time real soon. But I just want to make sure we bring the takeaways, Judy. The subject that you brought up and the way you're approaching this is very eye-opening to me, and I totally get it. And I think I used a lot of your technique without knowing it,
Yeah.
although there's a lot that I needed to learn, even at this age. And I think we all do. We're
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
improving, we're always learning, we're always becoming better people. And who doesn't want to have a good rest of your life with the person who's having difficulties? That
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
did the best you could, and you tried your best to have a happy
Hmm.
existence in the midst
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah.
Do you have any
Yeah.
takeaways you want to give? Is there some things we can pass on to everyone that they can use, as far as a site to go to, whatnot that you would like to share besides your website, the Judy Dementia? You can put in Google everyone, or Judy Cornish, and she'll show up with her books.
Yeah.
And
It's all there. You
what's the name
know,
of the website
I,
though? I'm just saying.
it,
Go ahead.
yeah, it's all on the web. That and it's easy to find. Just Judy Cornish or
Okay.
Judy Dawn or Judy Dementia. It's all there. But you know what
Okay.
I would like to share?
Yes.
Um,
Go ahead.
so often I hear people tell me, I lost, the slow death. I lost my mother. I lost my father. I lost my loved one to dementia.
Yeah.
And not because they died, but because they don't know who I am anymore.
Mm.
That to me is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking for both individuals because it is absolutely unnecessary.
Mm.
The only time you truly lose somebody to dementia is when you yourself lose your memory skills and your rational thinking skills. If only your loved one has lost them and you
Mhm.
still have yours, why aren't you using yours on their behalf? This is how it looked. And I learned this from my clients, when they no longer knew who anybody was. And keep in mind, knowing my name, that's just factual information. If I lose my memory skills, I'm going to lose that.
Mhm.
Knowing our relationship, well, that's just factual information. If I lose my memory skills, I'm going to lose that. This is all just factual information. It doesn't change who I am. It doesn't change who you are. So
Mhm.
here's what I do with my clients. When my client no longer knows who I am, I come in and even I do this even when people are um, non-ambulatory in a fetal position. And the staff tell me, you're wasting your time. She doesn't eat, she doesn't drink, we have to feed her. She doesn't speak, she hasn't opened her eyes in weeks. And I say, that's okay. I want to spend time with her. And I'll pull a chair up so that if she were to open her eyes, she'd see me. And this is what I do. I pull up a chair. I sit down. Now, I don't grab her hands or try to give her a hug or demand that do you know who I am? Don't you remember me? We've spent so much time. I don't do any of that. I come in and I sit down where I'm going to be visible and I say, Mary, Mary, hi, it's Judy. It's your friend Judy. You and me, we love each other. You love me and I love you. You know how long we've been friends? Oh, let me think. I think it's been 9 years now. And I start to tell her, I tell her who loves her and who she loves. I tell her who I am. I tell her about our relationship. And then I will tell her some of our favorite times together. And as I talk, person's eyes begin to open. And as I use my skills my client's behalf, my loved one's behalf, she then knows who she is, and she knows she's loved. She knows, and my goal is to tell the person that they have lived a good and worthwhile life.
Mhm.
Now, I've been memorizing their stories because you know how it is. We get forgetful. We tell the same stories all over and over again. We do it because they're important to us regarding who we are.
Mhm.
I memorize their stories. I memorize the words they use and the phrases they use. And when they no longer are able to tell me those stories, I know them. I tell them.
Mm.
I take over the role of being the memory keeper, because there is nothing worse in life than arriving at the last chapter and not knowing whether you lived a good life or loved or were loved.
I love
And
the memory
nothing
keeper.
better than life than getting to the last chapter and having a companion who will do the remembering for you and share it with you. So I teach this in the last class of the Dawn method, but I call it being the memory keeper.
I
There
love
is
that.
no reason to lose your loved one to dementia.
This
You
is
lose
so
your memories.
wonderful.
Yeah, this is what I mean about knowing your own skills and knowing what skills they lose and which ones they keep.
And you know, it is really the person who's taking care of the person that needs to be in a better, not a better place, but a better, like you said, awareness of
It's
what,
awareness.
yeah,
Yeah,
very, very
yeah.
cool. Well, I know this has been a wonderful lecture. We've been here from a long time, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But Judy Cornish, it was so good to meet you. I know you have free training materials on your site. I know people are
Yeah.
going to be looking for tools, so we need to give them that. There is
Yeah.
a certificate for agencies and facilities. Take a look at her site. You can have a private class. You can have a consultation. I know she's not wanting to sell anything. She's trying to give you guys the tools to have a
Yeah.
great life. And that's what I love about you, Judy. This is exactly what this is all about. So
Yeah.
everyone, I just want to say thank you for Judy for coming on board today. We'll have this recording up within the day, and I'll send you some stuff on my Caregiver Success Facebook page where you can find Judy and some of her tools. And it's Nancy, the nurse practitioner from Caregiver Success on YouTube. Follow us along as we continue to provide you with videos to help you get through this life together as we
Yes.
all get
Yeah.
older. Thanks, Judy, so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank
It
you for
was a
having me.
blessing.
Thank you.
Take care now. Okay, bye. Bye, everyone. Till the next video.
Bye-bye.
Bye.